MS1 Block 2 Unit 8 Management by Objective MBO 8.1 Focus on decision making. When a manager takes a decision, the purpose is to increase either the efficiency or the effectiveness of the existing operation or increase both efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency is the best way of performing a task. Formally, efficiency is defined as the ratio of output to input. The more output that can be obtained from a given input, the more efficient is the utilization of the input. While efficient refers to the right or best way of doing a particular task, effectiveness is concerned with doing the right task. However, efficient a manager may be at performing his task if the choice of task itself is not right, is his efficiency is certainly not helping his organization. A sales manager is very efficient in managing the time of his sales force and ensures that each salesman makes at least 6 to 7 sales calls every day. But wrong identification of potential customers makes the salesman's calls totally influensive as no sale is actually made. The manager's concern should always be to increase his own effectiveness and that of the total organization. An organization which concentrates on doing the right tasks, that is, its focus is on effectiveness, will surely survive and grow even if it performs the task in a somewhat less efficient manner. But a firm whose choice of tasks is totally wrong, no matter how high its efficiency, will certainly fail. Management by Objective MBO is a tool by which managers can improve their performance and increase their effectiveness. 8.2 Evolution of Mbo. The term MBO was coined by Peter Drucker more than 25 years ago. Drucker used the term in a very broad sense of connote not just a specific tool but rather an approach or philosophy of management. Later contributors to the subject have focused on MBO in terms of improving performance of either an individual in the context of superior subordinate relationship or the entire organization. In the United States, the name most associated with MBO is that of George Odiorn, and he stresses the superior subordinate relationship and propound MBO as a guide for operating the unit and assessing the contributions of each of its members. John Humble of UK visualizes MBO as a system which integrates the company's needs to achieve its goal with the manager's need to contribute and develop himself, and consequently places greater emphasis on corporate planning. 8.3 The need for MBO. At this point, you may like to raise the question, why do we need MBO? Why should an organization which have been performing well all these years now turn its attention to MBO and go through all the problems involved with its introduction? The answer to this lies in the very nature of an organization which tends to draw attention away from rather than towards the common organizational goals. Specifically, there are four factors inherent in each organization which is barriers towards the achievement of the organizational goals. These are specialization of work, misdirection of effort by the boss, hierarchical structures of management, and misdirection by compensation. Thus, there is need to unify the efforts of individuals towards achievement of corporate goals. This unifying force is provided by MBO. Today's technological sophistication requires specialized knowledge, specialized skills, and specialized workers. The danger in that these specialized workers, in their quest for perfection within a narrow confines of their specialized function, often tend to lose sight of the organizational goals. They forget they are working for an organization and that their specialized function has to operate within specified parameters. MBO MBO helps to mesh together the various functional specialists for the achievement of the firm's overall objectives. The compensation and appraisal system tends to act as a deterrent towards achieving organizational goals. This is because there is a tendency for people to please the boss even in the most objective design appraisal system. People tend to take even the most casual observation or remarks of the boss seriously and work to please him because they know that the boss plays an important role in their promotion and organizational goals are relegated to the back seat. M130 brings in greater objectivity with the emphasis on results. In every organization, there are various hierarchical levels of management. Each level has its own vision and own set of narrow objectives to fulfill. Often these levels are totally insulted from each other. This creates barriers towards harmonious working together for achieving the organizational goals. For instance, the machine operator would like to maximize his production and minimize the number of rejects, and his interest is limited to the machine he operates. The shop floor supervisor is concerned with all the machines and is interested in maximizing the total output with maximum utilization of various inputs. In achieving this objective, the supervisor may like to minimize the operation of an efficient machine. However, the operator of that particular machine would not like that. If there is arrangement about the overall organizational goals which have to be achieved, the kind of conflicting pressure can be avoided. Finally, the compensation system can often create situations in which people work towards maximization of their compensation, often to the detriment of achieving the organizational goals. If the machine operator's compensation is tied to the output which he produces on the machine, he would obviously like to produce the maximum number, disregarding the factor of efficiency, wastage, rejects, etc. Similarly, a salesman would like to book maximum orders irrespective of the fact whether the payment is made promptly or not. But at the organizational level, the concern is not only with output and orders booked but equally with the cost incurred and realization of payments. Only when objectives are specified for each person, drawn from and contributing towards the organizational goals with emphasis on teamwork, can these forces of separatism be minimized. 8.4 Definitions and Concepts. For our purpose, we shall define MBO as an approach which uses objectives as a focal point to improve managerial performance and managerial effectiveness both at the individual and at the organizational level. These objectives serve to guide, direct, review, and measure performance. However, MBO should not be thought of as merely a tool for performance appraisal. It is a far more comprehensive mechanism and provides a framework for organizational and managerial decision. In the MBO approach, while the objectives provide the focal point, the emphasis is on improving the performance and providing better results. This is because MBO is concerned with achieving the objectives as well as the process by which they are achieved. The objective will necessarily vary with the managerial level at which they are set. Objectives at the level of the managing director will be different from those of a branch manager or the production manager. However, all these objectives are derived from the organization's overall objectives and in turn are linked to the corporate plan. The fact that MBO allows for distant, intangible organizational objectives to be converted into achievable, personalized objectives for each level of management is the reason for its success and popularity. The key concepts in MBO are emphasis and result than activities, objectives for specific managerial positions, participatory or joint objective settings, and identification of key result areas and establishment of periodic review system. Emphasis on results rather than activities. The basic feature of every MBO is the emphasis on results rather than activities. Activities per se are never important. Their importance lies in the fact that they lead to results. If an activity produces no results, it may just as well be dropped, for obviously it is only consuming time and resources with no output. In MBO, the starting point is the identification of results which are important to the organizational and then working backwards to seek which activities can lead to these results. George Morrissey has identified management by activities or reactions and management by objectives and result as the two theoretical extremes. Traditionally, management was characterized by activities. Even today, you may find this happening in many cases. For instance, most job descriptions are spelled out in terms of activities such as traveling, meeting people, corresponding, etc., rather than results. It is disproportionate focus on activities which leads to the situation where apparently all managers are very busy but are not able to achieve any significant results. To shift from an activity oriented to a result-oriented management system is not always easy. Engaging in activity gives a lot of satisfaction to most people even when they know that its result contribution is very low. The more visible is the activities such as preparing graphs, charts, etc., the greater is the satisfaction. The other reason why people derive satisfaction from engaging in activities is because sometimes the gap between activities and results may be so long and uncertain that keeping a constant focus on result may be very difficult. Urgent pressing problems arising out of crisis situations or out of the need to meet deadlines, such as drawing up of balance sheet by the end of the financial year, require immediate activity which is unavoidable. However, if a manager always keeps in mind the result for which he is accountable, he can change his style of working towards result achievement. Objectives for specific managerial positions. In the context of MBO, objectives are defined as expected results. Objective must be specified for every managerial positions at each level of the managerial hierarchy. Objectives are set for specific managerial positions and not for the individual who occupy these positions. Irrespective of whether it is Mr. K.D. Das or Mr. R. Venkat who is manager of after sales service, the objectives of the managerial position still will remain the same. It is important to specify objectives according to managerial positions to ensure the continuity of effort in the achievement of organizational objectives. The only exception to this is the case of top management. When a company changes hands off or a new managing director is appointed, it is likely that he may like to modify or even totally change some of the existing corporate objectives and provide a totally new direction to the organization. In such a situation, objectives for all the managers may have to be modified or changed. There are three distinct levels of management in every organization. These are the top management, middle management, and operating management. Objective must be specified for each level of management. At the top management level of objectives are referred to as corporate objectives and they provide the general direction for the entire organization. Since their scope extends to the entire firm, corporate objectives necessarily encompass a span of 5 to 10 years. Prediction of future events can never be made with complete certainty and therefore the corporate objectives are specified more in general rather than very specific terms. Corporate objectives are externally oriented as they are derived from the external environment in which the firm operates. These environments comprises economic, technical, legal, social, cultural, political and demographic factors as well as consumer tastes, attitudes, competitions, etc. Thus, a company manufacturing mopeds may well define its corporate objectives as satisfying the short distance transportation needs of middle income classes. The corporate objectives must be broken down into more specific objectives to become practical and workable for the middle management. Manager of functional divisions and geographical territories represent the middle management. In case of the moped company, the objectives at the middle level, that is marketing manager, may be to achieve sales figure of 85,000 mopeds per year by March 1988, and 60% of this sale is to be achieved in the southern region since the company is located in Bangalore. Area sales managers, shop floor production managers, and managers of inventory control are all representative of the operating management level. Objectives at the operating level are concerned with the short term, such as sales per month, production level per machine, etc. Operating level objectives are derived from the objectives of the middle management level, which in turn are derived from the corporate objectives. Objectives at different level and in different functional areas are linked to each other to reach the sales of 85,000 units. Production must also be set correspondingly at 86,000 units, allowing 1,000 for defective and resets. Apart from this hierarchy of objectives and their linking with each other, there is also the need to rank them in order to importance. The more important objective must first be fulfilled before moving on to the next most important objectives. This is necessary because the resources and time at the disposal of the organizations are limited, and simultaneous fulfillment of all objectives is not possible. To be truly workable, objectives must be measurable in specific terms such as quantity, time, cost, and quality. An objective which simply states improve quality is not useful because it does not specify up to what level and by what time and at what cost. In case of such vaguely stated objectives, it is impossible to measure their attainment. To be achievable, objectives must be set realistically, taking into account all the strengths and weaknesses of the existing situations. Objectives which are set at an unrealistically high level will serve to frustrate the people and whom they are set. Similarly, objectives which are set too low are also not desirable. Participatory or joint objective setting. We have seen that all operating objectives are derived from the corporate objectives by breaking them down into smaller workable and specific functional area objectives. In an organization practicing MBO, these objectives are set by the concerned managers themselves in consultation with their superiors. The emphasis is on participation of the concerned manager himself. The participation process allows the manager to exert his influence on those very objectives and decisions against which his performance will be measured. This participation ensures that the objectives set are realistic since the manager is in direct contact with the market, labor, production, facilities, etc., and knows the true situations. Since the objectives are realistic and set in agreement with the concerned manager, their chance of being attained is also higher. Identification of key result areas. Every managerial position has associated with it certain results or outputs. However, it is the achievement of only a few results areas that is critical to the organizational success, and these are known as key result areas. For instance, the various result areas for a production manager may include quality, quantity, adherence to delivery schedules, rejects, wastage, inventory, labor cost, material cost, machine downtime, etc. Depending on the nature of his organization and industry, the production manager will identify his key result areas. In an industry where the raw material and machinery are the major cost contributors, the manager's key result area may be raw material cost, wastage, and machinery utilization. On the other hand, in an industry like television set manufacturing, where assembly is the major operations, labor costs, critical component cost, and quantity may be the key result areas. Similarly, in other functional areas, the key result areas can be identified. In marketing, this may be related to sales, new markets, new customer, marketing research, distributions, pricing policy, media advertisement, local sales promotion plans, etc. Just as key result area KRAs can be identified for different functional areas, these can also be identified at the organizational level. For instance, Modi Xerox, a company engaged in manufacturing and marketing photocopiers, views itself primarily as a service organization and emphasizes the after sales service aspects. In contrast, other companies may view their business as mainly manufacturing. While service is obviously one of the important key result areas for Modi Xerox, it may not be so for its competitors. There are KRAs which are common to all business organizations and all managerial positions irrespective of the functional area or industry. Peter Drucker has identified 8 such as KRAs common to fulfill all firms. These are profitability, market standing, innovation, productivity, workers' performance, financial and physical resources, managers' performance and development, and public responsibility. W. J. Reddin has identified 5 KRAs which are common to all managerial positions. These are subordinates development, innovation, project implementations, managerial development, and system implementation. In 1978 to 79, Madura Coast, a company engaged in manufacturing and marketing of a variety of threads and yarns, had identified its various KRAs as financial resources, profitability, and development of organizations, management development, labor relations, diversifications, and cotton development. In the same year, Gujarat Industrial Development Corporation, a state government agency for encouraging and assisting industrial development, has identified its RAs as capacity utilization, cost reduction, resource mobilization, organization development, customer service, infrastructure planning and development, diversification, corporate image, and rural industrial infrastructure. Identification of key result areas helps the manager and the organization focus its scarce resources on those activity which contributes to the critical results. Focusing is important because in most cases all managerial activity do not equally contribute to results. In the course of an average day, a manager may indulge in a number of activities such as meeting people, sorting out employees' grievances, planning for products to be launched in the next year, reviewing last month's expense sheet, etc. While sorting out personal grievances and meeting unexpected visitors may be unavoidable and urgent, it is activities such as future planning which are important and contribute to results. Key results area can be identified by asking the simple question: what is the unique contribution of my job or the organization? The answer to this question will provide the clue of identifying the key result areas. Once identified, these KRAs may remain unchanged for a number of years. These may change when the scope of the managerial positions or organization is changed, or if a subordinate has been developed to take over an existing KRA so that it is no longer in the purview of the manager's responsibility. As is the case with objectives, so also the KRAs at the corporate level are more durable than those at the middle and operating management levels. Establishment of periodic review system. An important feature of every MBO is the periodic review system. The review may be held at interval of every 3, 6 or 12 months. The purpose is to review the performance against the objectives. Also, the validity of continuing with the pre-established objectives may be reviewed. An organization which professes to follow the MBO approach but has no review system is only paying lip service to MBO without actually practicing it. Objectives are useful only if they can initiate action, and the review system is a way to ensure that the action in the desired direction is being taken and is yielding the desired results. The review system thus provides a mechanism for both measuring and controlling. MBO should not be confused with a performance appraisal system. There are many elements which are common to both, but MBO is wider in both the concept and application than a system of performance appraisal. Without going into many details, it would be useful to point out one major difference between the two. In performance appraisal, the emphasis is on simply reviewing the past, while in MBO, the focus is on initiating future corrective action. Though MBO may also be used for performance appraisal, you must remember that this is not its main purpose. The purpose of MBO is to improve managerial performance and effectiveness. 8.5 The MBO process. There are 3 steps involved in the MBO process. These are setting objectives in each key results area, action planning, and performance review. Setting objectives. Key results area are usually more durable than objectives, while KRAs delineates the broad area within which the organization must focus its attention. The objectives represent the specific results expected to be achieved within these KRAs. Thus, the first step is to identify the KRAs and pin responsibility for result with specific managerial positions. Making people responsible for KRAs is a very critical step for translating MBO theory into practice. KRAs and the persons responsible for them must be identified at the level of the entire organizations as well as each functional area. Having identified KRAs, the next step is to set objectives within them. At the organizational levels, these will be the corporate objectives. Corporate objectives define the purpose and mission of the organization and can be described by seeking to answer the question, what is your business? Following out of the corporate objective are the long and short term strategic objectives. 5 to 10 years is the usual time horizon for long range plans, while anything between 3 to 5 years describe the short range. Strategic objectives spell out those objectives related to choice of products, market, and technology. Derived from these are the unit level objectives in the case where an organization consists of several different business units. Action planning. Planning enables the objectives to be turned into reality. If objectives describe the what, plans describe the how or the way in which the objectives are to be achieved. Managers are paid to achieve certain objectives. The objectives can be achieved only if the manager converts them into specific action plan spelling out the various steps or activities to be performed and the specific time within which this must be performed. There are 4 broad steps involved in every action plan. First, choosing strategies which are appropriate to the objectives. Next, assigning responsibilities for achieving the objectives. Next, allocating resources for achieving the objectives. And last is scheduling specific activities to achieve maximum utilization of resources. Activities form the basis of every plan. Activities refers to the things or series of acts which have to be done in order to achieve the objectives. Further, these activities have to be arranged sequentially in the most logical manner and a time frame has to be specified for the completion of each activity. This is known as scheduling. It is only when this has been done that the plan gets converted into action plan. There are many techniques which are extremely useful in planning. Some of the more common ones are activity network, decision trees, milestone charts, program evaluation and review techniques (PERT), and critical path method (CPM). Depending upon your specifics of your plan, you can use the appropriate technique to make them more useful. In MBO, objectives are set for the organizational or the unit as well as for specific individuals. Therefore, two kinds of plans are needed: plans for the team and individual plans. The reference point for team or group plan may be the sales team or group of R&D engineers working on new product development, or even the entire regional office striving as a team to achieve the objectives of a specific sales figure. Wherever objectives are specified for a group of people working together towards a common goal, a team plan is required. Within the team, individuals are assigned specific objectives for achieving, and these individuals need individual or personal plans. Performance review. Regular performance review is one of the main features of MHO. In the absence of a review system, the MBO system cannot function. In the MBO process, the focus of the performance review is on: first is performance, second improvement, third future corrective actions, fourth frequency of reviews, and fifth is self appraisals. It is on the basis of these five elements that the performance review system of MBO is distinguished from other kinds of appraisal system. In MBO, the purpose of evaluating performance is to provide corrective feedback to the concerned person. In an appraisal system, the appraisal may be done for the purpose of assessing the individual's potential and his compensation for career planning, and identification of training and development needs, and also includes appraisal of personality traits and not merely performance. 8.6 Ensuring successful implementation of MBO. The MBO process seems apparently simple, but to practice it requires great analytical skill and clarity of purpose on the part of the management. MBO is not a managerial technique which can simply be introduced at a moment's notice. MBO involve people who have their own fixed ideas, attitude, values, and perception, which can be make the MBO implementation a very complex affair. The prerequisites of a successful MBO are: first is evaluation, second preparation, third top management support, and fourth is time horizon, and fifth and last is proper entry point. Evaluation. The first step is to evaluate what you expect from MBO. The most commonly made mistake is that MBO is visualized either very narrowly as a just another appraisal system, or as merely another way of tackling the problem of writing job descriptions, or it is visualized as a solutions to all problems. This leads to unrealistic expectation from MBO. To avoid this, it is best first of all to evaluate the existing organizational performance, culture, management style of planning, controlling, and monitoring, and then decide upon the specific need which can be fulfilled by MBO. It must be remembered that MBO is a powerful tool which can be used for improving the entire organizational performance, provided there is clarity about the expected results. Next point, preparation. The next step is to prepare the people for accepting MBO. Human nature always resists change. The best way to overcome this resistance is to disseminate maximum information about M130 and educate the concerned key people about its expected benefits. If possible, all the managers should be given a formal training exposure to MBO. This stage of preparation is very critical as MBO can be successful only if people willingly accept and practice it. Next point, top management support. For MBO to be successfully implemented, it is important that it has the full backing and support of the top management. In the process of implementation, there may be some redefining of objectives which in turn may lead the job being redefined, restructured or even totally scrapped in some cases. This is bound to lead to conflicts and friction, and top management intervention may often be required to soothe disturbed emotions and find practical solutions. Top management needs to exhibit great patience, understanding, and perseverance to see the MBO through its teething stage. Next point is time horizon. MBO means change which implies upheaval and disturbance. Just as some people can accept and adapt to change quicker than others, similarly, one organization's adaptability to change it is different from that of another, depending on its personality and attitude towards change, whether it is resistant or highly flexible. Each organization has to decide upon the rate of change which it can be withstand. How quickly is MBO to be introduced and implemented in the organization? In phases or at one go? In certain departments or in all departments simultaneously? These are the issue based decided on evaluation of specific characteristics. There can be no hard and fast rule except that sufficient time should be allowed to give MBO a fair trial. Next point is entry point. If MBO is being introduced in phases, then the best point for beginning its implementation is the top management level. But the top management must really be serious about it and not merely profess to practice without actually doing so. Starting at the top has the advantage of setting an example for the rest of the people and the relatively small number of people involved. 8.7 Benefits of MBO. The benefits occurring from MBO can be discussed in terms of the specific benefits to the subordinates, the superior and the organizations. First, benefits to subordinates includes greater role clarity, measurement of performance and increased job satisfaction. When specific objectives have been agreed upon, the subordinate knows exactly what he has to achieve and can plan his various activities towards this end. Role and goal clarity ensure that there is no wastage of scarce organizational resources on the one hand and single-minded dedications to achievement of objectives on the others. MBO implies regular feedback and measurement of performance against objectives. This serves as a great motivating factor for people to put in their best effort to achieve the objectives. It also helps to weed out the non-performer and identify the real contributors. Clear, specific objectives and unbiased feedback about performance contribute to increased job satisfaction as compared to situations where a person does not know what is expected of him and how, if at all, his performance will be judged. Job satisfaction emanates from the feeling of having done a job well to the best of your capability as well as public recognition and approval for it. The former is possibly only when there are specific objectives, while the latter can occur only if there is a system of review and reward. A worker or manager who derives satisfaction from his job will work harder in order to improve his performance, while a dissatisfied, discontent manager will make a negative contribution. Thus, MBO can serve to bring about a change and put people on the self-propelling cycle of role clarity, increased job satisfaction, and increased productivity. Second point is benefits to superiors. The benefits occurring to the subordinates will, of course, also occur to the superiors. But besides this, the other specific benefits for superiors are that MBO motivates subordinates, strengthens superior subordinate relationship, and provides an objective appraisal method. MBO is based on the concept of participation, and this leads to greater motivation. Setting objectives implies that both the superior and the subordinates have to sit across the table and openly discuss their respective roles, work, obstacles, and competencies. Such candid discussion always leads to increased mutual trust and confidence in each other and provides an enduring bond to the relationship. One of the biggest advantages of MBO is that it provides an objective basis for reviewing performance on the basis of achievement rather than personality traits. Reviewing a person on the basis of his personality not only puts him on the defensive but serves no purpose from the organization's point of view. The only thing that matters is result. Peoples are retained by organizations to produce results and not because they are sociable, soft spoken, introverted, or possesses any other such personality characteristics which has no bearing on their competence or capability. Next, benefits to the organization. MBO focuses on managerial effectiveness as a central value in the entire organization, and this emphasizes parameters down to the lowest level, influencing each manager and worker. This shows up in all the decisions which each manager makes, and the overall performance of the organizational is improved. Secondly, MBO with its focus on objectives improves concentration and coordination of managerial effort. There is maximum utilization of resources and conflicting pulls in opposite directions are avoided. Thirdly, the periodic review in MBO helps identify advancement potential of workers and managers. It also helps in identifying workers who are underutilized or not making the full contribution. Lastly, MBO creates many centers of accountability as against one centralized accountability point. It is not only the managing director or proprietor who is accountable for producing the desired result, but each manager is responsible for achieving the agreed upon objectives. Thus, MBO leads to a greater decentralization in terms of setting and achieving objectives. There are some limitations of this, and these are: in practical implementation, you could sometimes encounter one or more of the following limitations of MBO. Problems in joint objective setting among unequals. MBO implies a process of point or consultative objectives setting between the superior and subordinates, but this very relationships based upon status may prove to be hindrance in free, frank and open communications between the two and stall the process of setting goals in an objective manner. Problem of MBO being effective at the lowest level. Theoretically, MBO is supposed to percolate throughout the organizations right down to the lowest level, since the manager as well as the worker at each level have set their own agreed upon objectives. However, in reality, the worker or manager at the lower level often do not have the full freedom to set their own objectives. This is because MBO operates from top to down, starting with the corporate objectives. Thus, the process of objective setting implies that the objectives at the lower level have already been locked in, and managers down the line have to match their own objectives with those of the level above them only. If the process of objective setting is reversed to overcome this limitation and objectives are first set at the lowest level, it would mean that the entire organization is being guided by the people who have less experience, less education, less knowledge and awareness, and it is difficult to implement in a situation of change. MBO assumes a suitable environment in which the objectives once set will hold good till they are achieved. In reality, however, many unforeseen changes may occur which may render the objective impossible to achieve or irrelevant or invalid. In a situation where sudden changes occur frequently, MBO is difficult to implement. 8.8 MBO in India. MBO was introduced in India in the early 17th. It has followed the British model rather than the American one, and consequently there is greater emphasis on corporate planning and control. By now, more than 50 companies of different sizes and backgrounds and belongings to different industries have experimented with BO. Not all have been successful, but the number of successes is larger than those of failures. MBO has been adopted in private as well as public sector companies and also in state government organizations. The Indian company with the longest history of practicing MBO is Madura Coast. Since 1971, MBO has become an established way of management in the company. Managers meet almost every other day for objective setting and reviewing. The managing director and MBO consultant meet every month to review the various aspects of MBO. The success at Mundra Coast proves the fact that top management commitment is the most critical factor and for success. In contrast to Madura Coast, which is more than 100-year-old, Bharat Bilji is a relatively young company engaged in manufacturing and marketing various kinds of motor and lifts. MBO was initiated in 1974 with the selection of 10 key result areas for improving effectiveness. These key results areas were profitability, expansion, diversification, manager development, organization development, cost effectiveness, employee relations, plant modernizations, material availability, and public relations. Specific objectives were set in each key result area is emphasis on role clarity. This was achieved by defined objective for 20 senior managers in a simultaneously process, thus ensuring integration and internship of objectives. The experience with Hindustan Copper Limited HCL proves that MBO can work well in a large public sector undertaking. The experience of HCL proves that MBO can become industrialized and continue despite change in the top management team. MBO was started in 1974 and restricted only to defining corporate objectives and covering one part of the organization. MBO is applicable not only to business firms but to another kind of non-commercial organizations too. MBO has been successfully implemented in state government organizations such as Tamil Nadu Dairy Development Corporation, Department of Stationery and Printing, and Directorate of Industries and Commerce, amongst others. Besides Tamil Nadu, Gujarat is the other state which has enthusiastically adopted MBO. To begin with, the Commissionerate of Industries and the Gujarat Industrial Development Corporation were selected for the MBO program. Some of other companies which have successfully implemented MBO are Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited, Grindlays Banks, Blue Star, Shaw Wallace, and Galaxo Limited. There have been cases where MBO has totally failed. The most commonly encountered reason for the failure of MBO are: first, lack of top management support and commitment. Second, lack of inadequate planning and preparation. Next is lack of information and education. Next is very short time horizon. And next is overemphasis on appraisal. And next is poor understanding of the role of MBO. And the next or last is lack of clear but policy towards MBO. By avoiding the above mentioned pitfalls, you can ensure that MBO will be successfully implemented. 8.9 Summary. Management by objectives help improve managerial performance and effectiveness. It provides a workable framework to the manager within which he can make decisions which are in the best interest of the organizations. The key concept of MBO are emphasis on result, participative objective setting for each managerial position, and emphasis on teamwork, human relations, and a regular review system. The process of MBO involves setting objectives, action planning, and reviewing performance. For successful implementation, proper planning and preparation are required. To achieve success with MBO, it is necessary to have the top management's full support and commitment, a realistic time frame for implementation, adequate training of people who would be involved in the process, and a proper